Like, they need to play that in psychology classrooms because that was
Seriously.
wild.
That was wild. Hi y'all, I'm Kelly.
I'm Julie.
And we're here to roast Brendan. Just kidding, sorry. We're here to find love. Today we're diving into another Bachelor in Paradise 2021 recap. We are in season 7, weeks 6 and 7. So 2 episodes this week. We are diving into all of the things that have been going down on the beach. There has been a lot. There's been stuff between Brendan, Natasha, and Pieper. We have a lot to say. We'll also be talking about Demi, Mari, and Kenny, their whole situation, Joe and Serena, and Kendall, and how that's all playing out. So much is happening on the beach right now. We're just going to dive right in. I think let's get started with the Brendan and Pieper and Natasha situation because that's really the one that is top of mind for a lot of people with a good reason. It was a shit show.
I am incensed. I am angry. I am just like, I have my pitchforks at the ready. It was the most sensational, 2 hours of, Bachelor Nation TV that I've ever seen. Just, how much the production broke the fourth wall to just kind of, let people know that, these two are here just for the clout, and they're here to have a free vacation. Really, really wild to watch.
I know. And in case anyone is wanting clarity, we are very much like Team Natasha. Brendan really exemplified the concept of gaslighting. I know the concept of gaslighting comes up a lot in Bachelor Nation. We always, people throw that word around all the time. A lot of people thought that Greg was gaslighting. Julie and I weren't so sure about that. I mean, Greg seemed to be, we're not Grippo girls, but we don't necessarily think that was gaslighting as much as that was poor communication. Versus what happened here with Brendan, this is a very clear example of gaslighting. So
that was it to a T. They need to play that in psychology classrooms because that was
seriously
wild.
That was wild. So to offer a quick definition of gaslighting is a form of essentially manipulation, psychological manipulation, wherein a person essentially tries to make another person doubt their own reality, and they essentially try to distort a series of events or distort a person's memory of what happened so that they feel confused and feel like they can't speak their truth or stand by their truth, so that they feel like their feelings aren't valid or that their reaction isn't valid. Often it comes in the form of some of the things like you have selective hearing, or you're crazy, you know, what you said doesn't make sense, you're making things up, right? That kind of language tends to be really big indicators that gaslighting is happening. And it's definitely what we saw between Brendan and Natasha. Brendan was really, really trying to twist the series of events that has happened that we all saw playing out on national television. He was really trying to convince Natasha that she just wasn't remembering things correctly. He was really trying to convince Natasha that, you thought we were romantic? Clearly, we were just friends. It's like, you told her, we all saw you, 1, kiss her, but 2, tell her, I have the strongest connection with you. It's way stronger than what I have with Pieper. I've never felt the way I'm feeling with you, with other people. He said all those things. We all saw them talk about this. We saw him say this to her. And so for him to now suddenly act like, it was just friendship all along, it's gaslighting. It really is. It was very, very evident that he just played a little switcheroo, and as soon as Pieper came down the beach, he was ready to make Natasha feel like she misread the situation, when obviously she didn't misread the situation.
It was really, really hurtful to just see that Natasha was collateral in that process. He wasn't upfront about it. He did play a game. Even though he wasn't physically putting himself out there, he was mentally and emotionally giving Natasha all of the signifiers that their connection was heading in the right direction, which made Natasha feel secure, which kept securing the roses for each other. And it was just really, really strategic. Kelly had an excellent definition for gaslighting, but the way that he downplayed their connection kind of like diminished it into friendship and then blamed her for selective hearing. And I really, really liked him in Tasha's season, but now I'm kind of looking back into his whole trajectory and his arc, and maybe he wasn't, like, maybe he didn't just like pull himself out because he didn't feel ready for an engagement. Maybe that was also for fame, because that is something that is very, very like top of mind for him. So I just felt like, yeah, he just really did not give Natasha the proper energy and kind of like leaving the relationship and kind of giving her the closure that she needed. He just kind of made her feel like she should have been grateful that he was giving her energy. I was like, what is this?
My gosh,
Are
when
you joking?
he said that, I was so angry. He said, like, oh, it's not like you had any other prospects anyway. Like, I'm the reason you're sitting here on the beach. Like, what the diddly? I guess I can't curse on YouTube. But, like, ooh, I was so angry when he said that, because this idea that Natasha doesn't have fucking prospects. She doesn't have prospects because she's focusing on you, asshole. Sorry.
Mm-hmm. Because he was literally telling her every step of the way, I have a connection with you and I like the pace that we're going, and we're going at a place that we both feel comfortable with. It's like, how did she misread that situation? How did she not understand what he was saying when he was telling her exactly what he needed to tell her to make her think that like he was very into her?
Right, exactly. And then to spin it around and make it seem like it was because she's not desirable enough and like no one else wanted her, so he was doing her a favor. Mad. Like, ew. First of all, 1, have you seen Natasha? 2, fuck you. Like,
yes. Yeah, Natasha is she's so beautiful, and she's mature, she is graceful, she has a lot of tact, and for Brandon to completely like dismiss all of the good and kind of make it seem like, yeah, that was heavy lifting I had to do so that I could be here when Pieper was here.
And like, it really does, I mean, that level of disrespect, I think, is just inexcusable. There is absolutely no reason, no justifiable reason to treat Natasha the way that Brendan did. Really, it was just scummy. To make it about Natasha's worth and value as a person, it's not okay. That is some mean, toxic energy. Don't want it. Get it off the beach. Like, no.
Send them home. It needs to be like survival. I feel like people just need to, the way that they came for Chris and Alana, I wish they had 1/10 of that energy for Brandon and Pieper.
Yes.
I just felt like they skated right by it.
Totally. I completely agree. And honestly, it almost felt like adding like insult to injury that they got as mad as they did on behalf of Jessenia. Rightfully so. What happened to Jessenia sucked. Chris and Alana were like really being like jerks. And I think that was deserved, but the fact that they did that for Jessenia and didn't do it for Natasha, when what Brendan did was definitely way worse than what Chris did, like it
so really, much worse.
Yeah. It really does. Like, I almost felt like that, like, was just like twisting the knife, honestly. Like, while watching that, I couldn't even really be happy for like Jessenia and for the beach for kicking these people off the beach, because I was just like, what about Natasha? Like, why are we not giving Natasha the same energy? Like, why are we not protecting her and defending her and coming through for her the same way we are for Jessenia?
I mean, I felt like, too, I was really happy to just kind of see the house rally around someone that was really hurt. I just think that energy, that brotherly energy, is just very sweet to feel, especially when you're feeling so vulnerable and scared. I did feel like it was a little bit like OTT, because I was waiting for them to direct it towards the major offenders. I kind of would understand it if they also came from Brandon and Pieper, but they didn't, and then it felt like a popularity thing, and that's
very fair. I think that's really fair, that there is a bit of a popularity thing going on where, you know, no one knows who Chris and Alana are, and so it was really easy to dog on them as opposed to Brendan and Pieper, who everyone's friends with. There is a little bit of like a popularity thing at play in terms of you know, who is put in their place and who isn't. Honestly, like, Chris's whole thing of like the spark too, like his whole thing of like, oh, I didn't feel the spark with Jessenia. Like,
yeah,
I think it's an interesting conversation point and an interesting thing to talk about related to dating. But I also think that it didn't feel particularly authentic because literally before Alana walked in, he was all into Jessenia. He had not voiced any feelings of discomfort or feeling like something was missing. Like, he was so into her. He said that he was here to see her, like, for him to like have Alana come along and then make it seem like, oh, well, all along I wasn't into Jessenia. It's like, boy, like, come on.
So I do have a point about the spark and how Jessenia, you know, acts things off with Ivan to pursue it with Chris because of the spark, and then Chris stopped what happened with Jessenia because of the spark with Alana. It's so elusive, right? And I think in dating, this is what we're all looking for. It's like this instant feeling of chemistry, of fireworks, of connection that we think garners, like, I don't know, like a soulmate connection or just something more profound and deeper. But I think sparks point to limerence, and it points to sexual chemistry only at first. Like, that is what gets you attracted to someone, but that's not what love and intimacy, like true emotional intimacy, contains. It's really a slow build, and it takes time to like have feelings develop outside of pure lust. So I do think that, like, when we see first impressions, right, like Brandon, I had a crush on him on Tayshia's season. Like, I thought he was so wonderful because of the way that he presented himself, but we're all presenting the best versions of ourselves when we first start dating. We all have our cards held so closely to our chest that it feels really disingenuous to fall so deeply or to like have all of these feelings when we don't really know who they are. So like, Brandon was put on a pedestal.
Well said. I love that. Yeah, absolutely.
Time is really the best indicator for who a person is. And I felt like we really saw that play out of Brandon. We saw that play out of Jessenia. She thought she knew Chris, but she didn't know Chris. They hung out a few times. They saw each other on the beach. They had some type of connection. He was very close with her. But as soon as he saw someone else that he was also interested in, like, Chris took that as an invitation to explore that because he was following his spark. He was following that, like, bliss. He thought that would bring him happiness. And all it brought him to was a dead end. It brought him out of the beach.
I agree completely with you, Julie. Like, I completely agree that the spark is definitely not like an indicator that you're with your person. I think people have this this idea that like, oh, I feel something, that must mean this is you know, a thing. Like, this is a thing. And the truth is, you know, you definitely do need chemistry in a relationship. Like, you want to feel like you are compelled to, you know, spend time with someone, that you're really compelled to keep getting to know someone. Like, that feeling, that like authentic feeling of like just like really wanting to continue furthering a connection with someone in this like earnest kind of way. That is necessary to a relationship. It's very necessary to have that kind of like, I guess, spark, chemical feeling. But that alone is not an indicator that this is a person that you're compatible with, or that this is a special relationship, or that this is more likely to be your person. Like, that alone is not an indicator of that at all.
Yeah, I think that the spark conversation, I think this leads perfectly into what happened with Demi and Kenny's connection on the beach. I have complex feelings for Demi. Like, first, I really do like her sex positivity and how bold she is and who she is. I feel like she conflates sexual intimacy with emotional intimacy, and she really takes that spark and she borrows into like, okay, well, if we have that spark, then like physical intimacy is a way to escalate that. And in many ways it is, but I don't think it's a substitute for also building emotional like connection. And I think while they've had some really great talks on the beach and maybe in the boom boom room, it's still not enough vulnerability. And she's leaning so hard into like, isn't it fun when you hang out with me? Isn't it so exciting when you're around me? And it's like, and she just kind of thought that like if they had sex, that means that he would want to be in a relationship with her and her only. And that doesn't really happen sometimes. Like, people can have totally different ideas about what sex means for them. Kenny took it as, like, Demi's being fun. I'm physically attracted to her. Let me see what happens. She took it as, I'm having sex with him, and I think that we're actually going to get into a full-fledged relationship.
Honestly, like, I feel bad for her. I mean, it seemed pretty clear. I felt like it felt pretty clear that Kenny wasn't into her in a long-term connection way. Like, it seemed pretty clear to me that they were just, like, having fun, and which is great. Like, it's have fun. Yeah. Like, that's awesome. Like, I love that for them. But yeah, she seemed to just, like, miss the signals and, you know, think that having a lot of fun together is the same as wanting to be in a long-term relationship together. And it's not always. I mean, sometimes it is, but sometimes it's not. Just because something can be healthy doesn't mean it is healthy in every situation. And so, like, it's perfectly, like, possible to, like, have, like, a fun, casual, like, relationship that has sex in the forefront and in the center of it, and have that be, you know, either, like, a thing that's just fun for two people to do for a given amount of time until they move on, or have that be the catalyst for a deeper, meaningful, long-term relationship. It's possible. For all of that is possible, but that's just not how it happened. It's just not how it went down. And possibly because Demi was misrepresenting herself and what she wanted, and also possibly because Kenny, you know, maybe could have been more communicative with Demi about what was going on in his heart, and what he was seeing the situation as.
I think that's a really great point, and I feel like Demi and Kenny didn't have conversations about Mari. Demi was kind of like, out of sight, out of mind, it's you and me. And Kenny was obviously still hurting about the Mari connection, and he obviously liked her enough and a lot to, like, as soon as she kind of indicated reinterest in him again and was like, hey, I did make a mistake, and I do want to be with you, and you're all I think about, and I want this to be just us, how he obviously was kind of parsing it through for a little bit and just really being thoughtful about if he would get back together with her or not, but then he dove right back into it. It's a really clear indication that he pushed away his feelings a little bit to kind of, like, date Demi, and as soon as the feelings came back, he was kind of really easily able to kind of, like, okay, well, I have feelings for Mari, and with Demi it wasn't as deep because maybe we didn't have the same, he called it the special connection, whatever that means. I think it means vulnerability, or just, like, the conversations that they were having before they were exclusive.
Or
like, he didn't have that with Demi. Yeah, the spark, if you will. It's just so silly. Because I just know so many people that we've worked with, like, our clients, or, like, just when we're working in relationships, like, the spark is just the thing that everyone wants, and it's just not always the best judge of character for something, I think.
Yeah.
It's a really easy way to get into a relationship, but it shouldn't be the reason why you, like, stay. There needs to be more assessment.
Yeah, totally. And I think with Kenny and Mari, I mean, they do seem to be pretty authentically into each other. I mean, Kenny clearly
they're so into each other.
Yeah, had an opportunity to, like, explore relationships with several other people, and his heart was still kind of pulling him back to Mari. So I mean, it's like, it's probably a good indicator that there is something there that is strong. And so, you know, we'll see how that relationship pans out. I appreciated the fact that Mari came to Kenny and was like, hey,
I did too.
Like, I was wrong. Like, I thought that I would be okay with us seeing other people, but now that you see me with Demi, actually I'm not okay. It made me realize that I actually like you a lot. Like, this was exactly what like, you and I were talking about this last week in our video. We were like, this is what Mari should say, and she actually said it. Like, she actually went and did it. So I appreciated that. Kudos for, you know, good communication skills. And I guess we'll see how that pans out. Like, I feel bad for Demi, but I also think that there is just, like, an awareness gap, like a self-awareness gap that seems to be there for her. And, you know, until she finds that, like, she may struggle to find herself forming the types of relationships that she actually wants. So, and if she does just want to bone around with people just for that, then, like, cool. Like, just go do that. Yeah. Like, we love that for you, Demi. We love it. Just, like, I think it's, like, clarity of intention. Like, if you, do you actually want to, like, just have sex and like have that be like a fun thing, or are you trying to use sex to like convince someone to be in a relationship with you? Like that's kind of
what do you want?
That's kind of like
yeah. I feel like communication in all of these situations would have just made things so much cleaner for everyone involved.
Yeah.
Just healthy, straightforward communication. It is hard. It is so difficult to tell people like what you're honestly feeling, but it's just so much cleaner.
Listen, like it is okay for you to like, this does happen. Like sometimes you're with someone and then you meet someone else. I mean, and then you realize that you don't want to be with your current partner. It's fine. That does happen. Like, you know, it's okay for you to realize that you don't want to be with your partner because another person has made you, you know, realize what's missing in that relationship. That does happen. But the answer isn't to then make your girlfriend feel like she's this undesirable, like, pity party that you were only dating because she had no one else to date. Like, where did that come from? Like, what is wrong
my heart,
with you?
Kelly?
Like,
my heart is breaking when you said that.
It's
painful.
You know, just like treat people humanely with like respect. Be like honest with them. I mean, even Chris could have said to Jessenia, speaking of communication, he could have said to her, like when Alana came in, like, hey, like I had something with Alana before this, and like, you know, when she walked in, like there, I'm realizing that like that is something that I am wanting to pursue, and like I'm baffled because I thought that I liked you so much, but my heart is feeling a different way right now, right? And like just like being honest with that instead of like making it seem like, sorry, Jessenia, like I just wasn't feeling it with you the whole time. It's like, what? Like, what are you talking about? Like,
Kelly, the Bachelor world needs to hire you as a producer so that you get into some of these people's ears and you just tell them these things. But so much drama wouldn't exist, but that many more successful couples would come out of this show because that's as simple as it gets. And I just feel like this leads me to my next point, my final point about this whole situation. It kind of leads back into the Natasha Brandon thing. Natasha had made a point that when she was starting to feel iffy about Brandon, and she was like, okay, this is really messy. This is getting really complicated. And Joe had kind of said this about Kendall too. Like, this feels messy. This feels like a lot to get into. It's like Kendall. There's a reason why there are certain closed doors when you're dating. When you're dating someone and it doesn't work out, there's a reason for that. Like, it's not meant for you. And it's really painful to have it shut, but I'm a really firm believer that the universe gives us what we're meant for. Like the Greg and Katie situation, or like with Joe and Kendall and Serena, or Jessenia and Chris, because like their true character would have come out anyways, and it was a blessing that the door shut, and it was like, no, like this is not meant for you. And Natasha was kind of saying that she just really, really wished that she had like figured out sooner that like this situation is not as clean as I want it to be. I've put in so much work. I've done so much to make him feel comfortable, and it wasn't enough because it was never going to be enough. He was always waiting for that something extra, and it was Pieper walking down the beach.
Right. Yeah. Totally. And I love what you said. Like, you know, sometimes it's just not for you. And like, honestly, I actually really appreciated that Natasha and Jessenia, both of them actually, they were kind of like, oh, like I'm hurt, but like, oh, like kind of dodged a bullet here. Like, I understand. Like, like I'm hurt because y'all like treated me like I don't matter, but I know that I do matter. And all that says, that doesn't say something about me, that says something about you, right? That doesn't say anything about my worth. It says something about like who you are and the way you treat people. And so I think both of them did a really good job of like observing this situation and not letting it get to them and not letting it like affect how they feel about themselves. They were both able to see that situation and just say, oh, like, you suck. Okay. Realize that. Moving on. Like, so The last couple that we wanted to talk about was Joe and Serena, and I also wanted to give a quick shout out to two of our commenters who have been having some really good conversations down below in our videos. Priya, Harry, we love it. Everyone keep coming in with your thoughts. Leave us your perspectives down below. But Priya did bring up Joe and Serena and the fact that the two of them seem to have some pretty good communication. They're pretty good at talking about what's going on in their also very complicated relationship with Kendall coming down the beach.
Yeah.
They did a pretty good job of just like sitting down and talking about like what that could mean. Like Joe was pretty clear about like, I want to focus on you, but I'll be honest, like it's like very possible that I'm gonna get confused that Kendall is here. I'm gonna try to like tell you what I'm feeling as it's happening, and like I appreciated that he was just like very direct about what was going on and not trying to make some kind of spins around what the situation was. He was just like, I'm a mess, this is messy, like I know I like you, and also I'm in this messy situation, so like I'm gonna try to keep you posted like as things are happening. And I appreciated that. That was pretty good honesty in my opinion. What did you think about them?
I thought it was, yeah, you're spot on about that. I felt like Joe handled it the best way that he could have. It was a very complicated situation, and I think that I'm not so worried about Joe and Kendall getting back together because they weren't able to be on the same page about why they broke up in the first place. Like, it was logistic for, it was like kind of like logistics for Kendall, which felt very unsexy, maybe to her idea of romance. And I think with Joe, he was like, you didn't try. Like, that was what was the final nail in the coffin. And I think that she has this narrative in her mind that's pretty like well grooved about like what romance looks like and what who she will be, what she will not tolerate. And he put in the effort, she did it, and now she's scraping the bottom of the well to see if there's anything there, but he's busy building something with Serena. And I just feel like it's not gonna work out because like it's like freaking 2021. Like we have so many hard things happening in our life. We don't need a relationship to be like another thing added to it. I just feel like he sees Serena and she's so like, it flows so well. And then with Kendall, it's like, we did it and we tried and like it's not working, and now you're back and I'm confused and this just feels hard. It's like heavy.
I agree. I mean, I will say in Kendall's defense, I mean, she lives in LA. Chicago is like an Iceland. It's like moving from living on the sun to going like, it's like living in the sun and then going to live like on an ice cube. That's what it feels like to move from LA to Chicago. So like, girl, I get it. Like it's like it would be a big thing for her to make that shift, and I think it's okay if she didn't want to. So, you know, I think Joe and Serena, the two of them probably have better odds at this point of moving forward.
I think so.
And I think they've had like a lot of like levity to your point, like a lot of like just like a feeling like freshness and like clear air and like good communication. It just feels like a good, healthy relationship. So you know, we love to see it.
Yeah, so I know that there were some couples that we didn't get to this episode. We really wanted to prioritize talking about Brandon and Pieper and Natasha, because after this, we really don't want to give too much thought towards Brandon and Pieper, because that's exactly what they want. We only really want to speak about them if it feels like very important to the channel, but I do think that we will be talking a lot about Becca, Tammy, Thomas. We'll be talking about Riley and Marissa. We'll be talking about a lot of the other relationships that are forming on the beach in next week's episode. Let us know what you thought about the whole Brandon, Pieper, Natasha of it, because that was a lot. I know people have a lot of really mixed opinions about how they portrayed themselves and just how Natasha handled the situation. I mean, I feel like that isn't as mixed. Everyone is just a fan of how she handled it. Yeah, she just handled it the best way possible.
Natasha's face on their face, which I think is reasonable.
Yeah, this is, our YouTube account is now just pro Natasha. We are Natasha's Stan account. Like, this is all we're going to talk about.
That's all going forward.
That's just what it is. Yeah, we're changing our name. So.
Yeah, here to find Natasha.
Here to find Natasha's love. Here to find her soulmate, because we are. That's our whole job. Like, we've changed our mission.
I would love to see Natasha become the Bachelorette. Oh my god.
Oh my god. Like, it would be amazing. Oh. that's everything for us this week. We will be back next week. Like, comment, subscribe. Let us know what you're thinking about this week's dumpster, trash, fire, whatever this whole episode was. It was so bad. It was so hard to watch.
Yeah.
And we'll be back soon. So yeah, we'll see you guys all next week. Bye.
Bye.